What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Coast to Coast Podcast. Today, we are talking some NBA trade deadline, and we're going to talk first and foremost about some of the most impactful trades in the NBA across the last season. First and foremost, Carson, how we doing?
I'm doing great, but I'm really excited to see how Griffin's doing because this trade deadline helped my boy out.
Yeah, we had to. I gotta ask, how are the hopes? How high are you feeling right now?
Can we get much higher, Liam? I'm so high. It's so I'm so excited. I was feeling down the dumps 4 weeks ago. I wanted to blow it up, and now I can't even believe my life.
It's amazing how that turned around. I mean, it really seemed like the Suns' window
hmm
was officially closed. I mean, Chris Paul definitely looked like he took a step down just because age is inevitable. But
Oh yeah.
now it's like all of a sudden you guys, I feel like you and the Nuggets, you guys are right there at the top. You guys are the front
hmm
runners.
No, yeah, absolutely crazy. I mean, it's insane. We'll get to that, but we're gonna start talking about like the best trades of the last 15 years, kind of growing in chronological order. I kind of want to revisit some of them, especially with the magnitude of this Kevin Durant trade. It's gonna take a long time till we see how it affects. Even if the Suns, let's say, go out and win a championship this year, it's gonna take a while for us to see if the Nets' return was as promised or as what they thought it would be. So the first, probably one of the biggest trades of the last 15 years has to be Chris Paul to the Los Angeles Clippers, previously vetoed from the Lakers. He gets traded to the New Orleans Hornets, who are now the Pelicans. Chris Paul goes over for two 2015 second-round draft picks. Those draft picks turned out to be nothing of note. None of those guys were contributors in the NBA at all. And the Hornets received Eric Gordon, Al-Farouq Aminu, Chris Kaman, and Minnesota's unprotected 2012 first rounder, which became Austin Rivers. Let's just kind of dive into this. I mean, a huge trade, that kind of changed the course of the Clippers franchise. Sure, Gordon was good in his first early years, but Chris Paul's an all NBA, legendary point guard. And Griffin, he's on your team now. So how about you start us off?
Yeah.
This trade,
I
now
mean,
in hindsight.
yeah, totally. I mean, back in the day, when the Suns were really bad and I was pretty young, the Clippers were my favorite team for one and one reason only, because Blake Griffin and I shared a name. And I matured a little bit, but I was a Clippers fan back in the day when this trade happened, and I was excited. But what makes this trade not as successful as trades we'll talk about further, is that they never won a championship. But the Clippers were so historically bad that getting a Hall of Fame point guard and pairing that with, at the time, an up and coming star player in Blake Griffin, elevated the Clippers to relevancy, which they had not had really ever in their history. So overall, Liam gave grades, and I like the grades that you gave specifically for this trade. Clippers getting an A and the Hornets getting a C plus. Eric Gordon was good, but the rest, it kind of propelled them kind of proto tanking, and it got them, Anthony Davis. But I like the grades for both, and I like the Chris Paul trade for the Clippers, obviously. So
Yeah, Carson, what about your thoughts on the trade?
Yeah, the point that you made, Griffin, about how it ended up kind of it really did put them in a position to get Anthony Davis. And I mean, it's not like Anthony Davis really accomplished anything in New Orleans. It's not like they really had much going on with him. But I mean, it did end up getting them, a franchise guy. So that's something. But yeah, I just remember really getting into the NBA, 2010 range. And this and the Carmelo trade were really the two first big, massive blockbuster trades that I, really remembered, just of being a big fan of following all the time. And, he had, Chris Paul had the whole thing with the Lakers. That seems really crazy to look back on now, considering, I feel like in an era of player empowerment where, the players just really control wherever and wherever they want to go. I feel like the players, for the most part, get whatever they want in terms of, where they want to go in trades. It's crazy to look back and be like, David Stern like straight up said no, like you are not going to play with Kobe. We're not letting this happen. And then instead he went to the other LA team, and that Clippers team will definitely go down as one of the disappointments, just because they were so talented. They never ended up winning anything, but they were such a fun watch. And Chris Paul and Blake Griffin, really prominent memories of watching them. Lob City was box office. It was super, super fun. And definitely, the Hornets not really getting anything memorable from this trade is pretty tough. But for the Clippers, huge win. I mean, because the Clippers really, this is really their only relevant time in NBA history, to be honest. I mean, they had like a slight little run in 2006. And obviously now they have Kawhi PG. I mean, that's something, but they haven't really done anything either. So this was definitely a big moment for the Clippers franchise, really kind of legitimizing them as like, okay, like, we're decent here. Like, we got something.
Yeah. And I mean, the reason why I didn't give this an A+ is because like they didn't do enough. If they made even just a finals appearance, I would have said this is a clear-cut A+ trade, because you could just say like they can't beat talent, at the end of the day that's, superior to them. And the Hornets only getting a C+, like sure, they ended up getting AD out of it, and then we'll get into the AD trade that they eventually got a huge haul, which is making them, perennial contenders from here on out. But, Eric Gordon never amassed anything. Al-Farouq Aminu was just a role player, and Chris Kaman played one season on this Hornets team before he moved on. So, Griffin, I think you had a point to mention.
Yeah, it was just kind of sucks because they were at the tail end of the Spurs dynasty, kind of towards the tail end, and the Warriors started up right as they were getting going. So it's just unfortunate, because if they were maybe in a different era, this team probably would have accomplished a lot more, but they were caught between two really significant all-time basketball teams, and it's just unfortunate that they never accomplished anything, but still, they propelled the Clippers to relevancy that they continue to have now. So overall, successful
we were
trade.
waiting on that Warriors Clippers.
Totally.
Conference Finals, but then the Rockets came in. Josh Smith came in and ruined that.
What a legend!
Yeah.
So kind of moving on to huge stars, we got to take a big jump. I believe this was 2018. We have Kawhi Leonard. He has the whole saga in San Antonio, as we were mentioning, in this tail end of the dynasty. He requests the trade out. He gets shipped to Toronto with Danny Green, who, at the time, just a couple years before like Clay really burst onto the scene, he was the best, probably like pure 3-and-D guy in the league. Like he had finals records and, against the Heat and all that stuff. But him and Kawhi would go to the Raptors in exchange for DeMar, Jakob Poeltl, in a top 20 protected 2019 first-round pick, which you think, top 20, that's not anything. That actually turned out to be Keldon Johnson, who's one of the best, young wings.
Yeah, I think we all really like him. I think he's pretty good. Yeah.
So for this, I gave the Raptors an A. It can't be an A+ in my opinion, because he simply just like hit it and quit it in Toronto. He led them to a chip, but he didn't stay, and their franchise has been in limbo ever since. And for the Spurs, DeMar kind of walked for nothing. He headed to Chicago. But I think the fact that they were able to get Keldon Johnson and eventually a first-round pick from Jakob Poeltl, which happened just last week, for a guy that wanted out and an aging guard, I think that was fine enough to give a B grade to. So, Carson, I'll start with you this time. What do you think about the whole Kawhi trade?
For me, I gotta give it an A+. They won the goddamn championship. I get your reasoning. I totally get it, because like it didn't set their franchise back all too much, because I don't know, the Raptors are such a weird team. They definitely really disappointed this year, but I still like a lot of the guys on the roster. So I feel like they're not too far out from being good again. But just a crazy, just like home run swing. Really just respect the balls of Masai Ujiri, really just cementing himself as like, one of those upper echelon front office guys. Because like, with DeMar, with Kyle Lowry, they were really just stuck in limbo. And, as soon as LeBron leaves, as soon as the, Toronto Raptors owner LeBron James leaves the Eastern Conference, Masai's like, look, like it's wide open now. Like, like Thanos, he's gone. Like we have an opportunity. We've been stuck in limbo with DeMar and Lowry. Like, let's go out here and get like there's only so many like upper echelon, like top 5, top 10, whatever, championship winning guys out there, and one of them was Kawhi, and he was just out there, looking to be traded, and they went for it, and I have a ton of respect for that they really sent it, and they ended up paying off because Kawhi went Super Saiyan. He was absolutely dominant the whole playoff run. And like I said, just really, really respect it because you don't really see these kind of trades all that often. I feel like a comp for this would definitely be like the Matt Stafford trade to the Rams. They went for it. They were so close, so many years, and there was just that one piece they were missing, and they went for it. They sold their soul for the championship. They got it. And then you have to deal with the repercussions after. But at the end of the day, you wouldn't trade that championship for anything. And I think that's the craziest part about this one is it was a one and done. It was a hit and quit it. But Toronto wouldn't trade it for anything because winning the championship is everything.
Yeah.
So,
Griffin?
Yeah, I definitely agree along those lines. It's just, to me, it's one of the most unique NBA blockbuster trades we've probably ever had, just in regards to the star not really wanting to go to the destination that they're heading to. Like Toronto, like I totally understand it from their perspective. Like Masai, like totally I get it. Like as a fan of a team who has never won a championship, and the Raptors never won a championship before that, like I totally get it. Like I would trade anything for that, and they got it. Like they won out. Like I agree with the A, right? But still the longevity piece there. I think it's kind of a lesson that other teams have been learning where you got to make sure that the star that you're trading for kind of wants to be there long term. And we learned it. We learned it in this trade that Kawhi did not want to be there. Also, he is very like aloof, and it's kind of hard to get a read on him. So like you never know. Like you could have tried to won him over, but still. And I agree with kind of both your points about the Spurs. Like they got back some good pieces with Keldon Johnson, Jakob Poeltl. They kind of flipped that this year, kind of embraced the full tank. So yeah, I'm on board with both of you guys' opinions on that.
Yeah, it's just like I think this trade would be completely different for the Spurs. Like they had a Hail Mary in drafting Keldon Johnson in the last 3 picks of that draft because that is maybe the most stacked last 3 picks of a draft you've ever seen. Jordan Poole, Kevin Porter Jr., and Keldon Johnson. That's just like you don't see talent like that from like 28 through 30. So this is probably will go down as the most. It might be one of the most famous draft trades, even over Kobe Bryant from the Charlotte Hornets, in my opinion. Luka Doncic and Trae Young are swapped for each other on draft night, with the Mavericks trading I believe it was just a regular 2019 first rounder to get to trade Trae Young and go up and get Luka Doncic. I mean, the ramifications of this trade are insane to think about how Atlanta could have had themselves one of the best young players, and probably one of the best players we will ever see in this league in Luka Doncic. And at first, this trade looked promising, like it was fair when Trae had made that Eastern Conference Finals. But now Luka's got a Western Conference Finals under his belt. Cam Reddish didn't turn into really anything. He's been kind of, given up on. He needs to be like a reclamation project. He didn't get moved, which didn't make a lot of sense. Or did he get moved?
He's on the Blazers now.
Oh, yeah, he's on the Blazers. So another reclamation project for the Blazers to deal with. But Griffin, I'll start off with you. This is one of the trades we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, this is a crazy trade. Draft day especially, yeah. But, I mean, I really wish Luka was in the East, dog. Like, get him out of the West. Like, he has tormented my soul. Get him out of here. But, like, oh, my God. Like, just – take it from the Mavs perspective, this is a home run. Luka is like a potential top 10 player of all time if he continues on the trajectory that he's been going on. But Trae Young, I haven't watched the Hawks too like closely this year, but like from what I'm seeing, it seemed like his statistics have gone down a little. And his
three as well.
Yeah, and his efficiency has definitely gone down. I haven't always been that high on Trae Young. I don't think he's a bad player by any means, but I wouldn't say, like, if you close your eyes and think of a winning player, I wouldn't call Trae Young that. And I don't know, just don't love it for the Hawks, especially in hindsight. Especially like that Eastern Conference Finals run they had was special, but I think that maybe gave people a different idea of what this Hawks team could be going forward. And now that they're not meeting those heights and those expectations, people are kind of disappointed.
Yeah. Carson, I mean,
Yeah, not much else to add. I just like the fact that the Mavericks knew they knew what Luka was going to be, and they went for it, and to make this trade and not even really give up all that much to get Luka. I mean, literally, like it's crazy to think like for them to trade Luka basically just for Trae Young and Cam Reddish. Like you think about that now. Like if we know what we know now, and that was the trade, it's like holy shit! Like the Mavericks. Fleece them, but this was back before we even knew what any of these guys were going to be yet. Just crazy. I mean, this will really go down as like, and it's funny because you have to think about the Kings part of this too. They don't even take Luka; they take Bagley, who meant nothing to them. And now it's like, now I feel like for me, the Kings are better than the Mavericks right now. Which is, I mean, who knows how long that's going to last? I'd much rather have Luka over the course of a decade or whatever. But it's just funny how that ended up working. As of this season, the Kings are better. Trae, doesn't play any deep. He has some really glaring holes. Doesn't really seem like he's that fun to play with. Doesn't play any defense. When the shot's not there, not really getting much from him off the ball. With that being said, I think when he's on, he really is like all-star, but great offensive talent. But yeah, this is just insane. We're going to be the NBA TV, the 2018 draft doc in 20, 30 years, it's going to hit like crazy, and it's going to be hyped up. Like, how the hell did the Mavericks do this? How did they let this happen?
Yeah, and I mean, like you were saying, like we didn't know at the time. Like Luka had tons of question marks, mainly because he had the European like label on him. Like, sure, like. Oh, this guy's playing overseas. Like those guys are soft. They're this, they're that. When like he's really one of the most crafty like players we've seen. Like he is very emulant of what Harden was when he was in Houston. The way that he can score and how creative he is, and the way that he can just have such a high usage percentage and be as good as he is. And now he's got to drop that usage percentage because we'll get into it later. He's got a pretty great teammate with him now. But
I think one thing I do want to mention real quick is I feel like. It's still going to be an A+ for the Mavericks, but I'm just very, very, very interested to see, like, I feel like if the Mavericks don't get a championship out of him, because I really don't trust the Mavericks all that much to consistently put a great team around Luka. I feel like, Mark Cuban's a great owner or whatever, but I feel like just in general, they're very incompetent when it comes like they don't seem to like always go for it. I mean, you look at Dirk, right? Like, Dirk after that championship team, I don't even think they made the playoffs for the next few years with him after that. I feel like that's kind of been their MO. They're just really struggle with like putting the right team around their guy. And I wonder like how many years, if they keep, losing the playoffs, how many years is Luka really going to want to be there, especially in this era? I mean, Luka's going to get to like 26 or 27, might not have a championship, and be like, all right, like it's time to start getting some jewelry. And so I wonder, like, are the Mavericks even going to get a championship out of this guy? We'll see. I'm very interested to see that.
Yeah, I mean, and like you got to hope that Kyrie Irving's more than like a Monte Ellis was to the like later Dirk. Like he's not just like a scorer and can't do much else than that. Hope that he continues to be the guy that we've seen him be and be available. Course, but we'll get into that later. The first trade on this list that I really gave a bad grade to was Russell Westbrook getting traded to the Rockets. Obviously, Kevin Durant left OKC. We all know the story. Goes out, has a historic triple-double season, wins MVP. Goes out again, has another triple-double season. And then, it's time for OKC to rebuild. They realize that, Westbrook's taking a little bit of a step back. Paul George, was a top 3 MVP candidate, but they weren't going to get anywhere with that roster. So they go about Houston wants to, make a shot at it. Chris Paul didn't work for them because that duo is never going to work. So they trade Chris Paul a 2021 first rounder, which ended up being Alperen Sengun, which was the OKC actually traded back to Houston, which I think they'll learn to regret that because he's been a great guy so far.
Mhm.
2024 first round pick, top 4 protected, and a 2026 first round pick, top 4 protected, and 2 pick swaps. I give this a D plus for the Houston. I mean, they're lucky that they were able to get Alperen Sengun back, so that kind of like helped factor in. But Westbrook was still oil and water when it came to Harden, just like Chris Paul was. I mean, Chris Paul was probably even better with Harden at this point. So I had to give a D plus. And for OKC,
They almost got to the finals. I mean, they were so close to getting to the finals.
yeah, it's that game 6 against the Warriors. I mean, it came down to that. Well, game 7 when they missed all the damn 3 points. Yeah, but and then only a B plus for OKC. Also, this is really heavy on the fact that OKC has a great track record. We'll get into it. They have, I believe 2 more deals on this, or maybe no, they got 1 more deal on this list that I think is the best trade they've ever done, involving another guy from that same roster on the the Thunder. So, Griffin, I'll start off with you. What do you think about this?
I mean, definitely disastrous for the Rockets because definitely, like, Chris Paul was definitely a much better fit next to James Harden. I've always been of the mind that Russell Westbrook is not a winning player, and that was kind of just has been confirmed over and over and over again. But Chris Paul getting traded to OKC, them kind of starting their rebuild. I like it for them, even though Chris Paul was there for 1 year, but they flipped that into more assets. They got the picks off of it. Again, they definitely do regret that Şengün pick being traded back to him, but just disastrous for OKC. I mean, not OKC, to the Rockets. Disastrous for them because Westbrook and Harden did not work. Oil and water, like you said. So good trade for OKC. They've been Presti continue to be a wizard in the front office, just making really smart trades, and this was one of them.
Yeah, Carson, I mean, anything to add on this?
Yeah, it was just such an uncharacteristic trade for Daryl Morey. I feel like his track record in Houston was so good. Just making like really smart analytical moves. And this was just, to me, this was really just to keep Harden in Houston for another couple of seasons because, we know that, that's his guy. Obviously Morey went over the Sixers and ended up getting Harden too. So that, that's his guy and he was just trying to appease him. But yeah, just really, really weird for him to do that, even just because it completely goes against his MO. Westbrook is like the complete opposite of what Daryl Morey values in a player. And then for OKC, I mean, I think getting Chris Paul, was so important for them getting that playoff experience. I mean, that team was really, really fun. That 2019-2020 team. I really enjoyed that team. But I think when you look at the long-term effects of that trade, I think Chris Paul had such an important effect on SGA. I mean, we're seeing the repercussions of that now. I mean, SGA is a 30-point-per-game guy, and I think Chris Paul just helped his development so much. And I feel like that, we're going to look back, and SGA will probably say it. He probably has said it. Like, that was a huge moment for his career. But OKC not having Sengun, that just hurts. Because just imagine Sengun on OKC right now. They'd be getting Chet back. They're going to get another pick next year. I mean, they're still really set up to be really, really good in the future. But just the fact that they could have Sengun too, oh my gosh, that'd be insane.
Yeah, the only thing I have to say about Sam Presti is the thing that bothers me is he, like, a lot of times he just gets these picks and keeps trading them when, like, I feel like sometimes he just needs to make a move. Maybe there hasn't been a guy that maybe he's been waiting for this moment to, hopefully, like, get a top 5 pick. And if it's not one, trade all of his assets to get a guy like Wembanyama. Maybe that's been, like, he's been playing the long-term game, but, like, to see, like, him pass up. I mean, we all didn't know Sengun would be as good as he is today, but, like, he was still a very intriguing prospect, and I imagine they know a lot more than what we do from the, viewers' eyes. But I think that's one of his, his what's it called? Like, negatives as a GM is sometimes he just continuously plays this waiting game with trading back. But
wasn't there a report? I'm sorry, cut you off.
Go ahead.
No, wasn't there a report? I think it was like 2 drafts ago. Remember, there was the the Shea and like the sixth pick for Cade, and they turned it down. Like I think he's tried, but I mean, thank God that trade didn't go through because that would have been pretty bad. But uh, yeah, I think that he's made an effort, but like I think teams at the top are kind of stingy when you get the first pick. Like the allure of whatever that's going to be is maybe more important, more likely, or more enticing than whatever OKC can trade you in the future.
Yeah, I don't think a single team would trade the first or even the second pick this year. Honestly,
Oh, no way, no way.
I think you'd be a fool to move on for that.
Yeah,
It would have to be a king's ransom. It would have to
yeah,
be a team that's just like a player like Wembanyama or Scoot couldn't move them high enough, so they need to get
hmm
more depth. But like, I still think you'd be ridiculous to say no to either of those two stars.
hmm
This probably has one of the most biggest effects in NBA history, at least recent, with this next trade. Anthony Davis to the Lakers. I mean, it's been a long time and people don't remember just how dominant Anthony Davis was in New Orleans. He was getting Hakeem Olajuwon comparisons to how dominant he was on both ends of the floor. Sure, he never had success that you wanted him to have, but his supporting cast was, I'd say, a less refined version of what Drew Holiday is today. You know, guys like Tyreek Evans and Eric Gordon and, you know, the bunches of those guys. So,
His second best player for like a playoff stretch was like Rondo.
yeah,
Late Rondo.
and Rondo's not a guy that, you know, is going to, like, help you so much offensively. So, Lakers, they receive Anthony Davis. Washington received some stuff, but we're kind of ignoring them in this because what they received didn't really turn out much. So New Orleans is going to receive Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, the fourth pick in 2019, which was traded, which ended up becoming Jackson Hayes and Nicole Walker-Alexander, which they probably wish they took Darius Garland and kept that pick. Then they got the 2022 first rounder, which became Dyson Daniels, a right to swap picks in this coming draft, which will likely be a lottery pick if the Lakers stay the way they've been, or who knows. And the 2024 pick with the right to defer to 2025 if so be. And then kind of another note, Josh Hart and Nikhil Walker-Alexander were the main pieces in the trade to acquire C.J. McCollum. So essentially they got two of their best players in Brandon Ingram and C.J. McCollum and a young guard with still left draft capital for Anthony Davis. I mean, Carson, start us off. Just like, how crazy was this trade?
I mean, this is arguably, I feel like this, and then, we'll get to the Gobert trade later, arguably the biggest, and KD's too. I feel like just massive, massive, massive hauls, which, was deserved. I mean, Anthony, you mentioned it. You laid out how dominant Anthony Davis was. He was one of those probably top five. He really was like top five guy. You had to give up a ton to get him. And I think from the Lakers' perspective, considering how injury prone and how inconsistent Anthony Davis is, and who knows what's going to happen with LeBron. He's 38 years old. He's kind of laying out, the breadcrumbs that he wants to go somewhere else after. The next decade for the Lakers might look awful, but they went all in, similar to Kawhi. They went all in and they won a championship. And, the next decade, like I said, it's probably going to suck, but they got the championship. And that's really all that matters. They got that bubble title. And I feel like we're going to look back at the AD LeBron duo and be pretty disappointed considering how high of hopes we had for them, but they still will always have that championship together. And that's all that matters. And then for New Orleans, I mean, the fact that they got Ingram out of this, I think you get Lonzo, Ingram, and Hart, and that one of them ended up turning into an all-star caliber guy, I think is really, really important. That's always really what you look for when you're giving up, a guy like Anthony Davis. And yeah, you mentioned it, that number 4 pick, the what if with that, if they just keep that and take Garland is crazy. I mean, imagine throwing Garland on this team. I mean, I'm sure they probably wouldn't have McCollum, but God damn it, I'd much rather have Garland. I would much rather have Darius Garland than CJ McCollum. I mean, you have Garland, BI, Zion, and then, you still imagine that they hit on all their draft picks, the Herb Jones, the Trey Murphys, the Alvarados. I mean, their team when they're healthy is still really good right now, but just throwing Garland on that team, that just sounds absolutely crazy. And yeah, it really is a wild trade considering all that they got back. Tough luck for Jackson Hayes, because I'm not really the biggest Jackson Hayes guy. I mean, he kind of finds himself like in and out of the rotation. I feel like he's really like their third big. He barely even plays, but just an incredible trade looking back. I still remember, I think I was in like Hawaii or something, and just like looking down at my phone and seeing like the breaking news, Anthony Davis going to the Lakers. And my first thought was like, holy shit, the LeBron AD pick and roll is going to be absurd. That was the first thing in my head. Like the pick and roll is going to be insane. And like I said, a little disappointing, but they got the chip. It's all that matters. So, Lakers still somewhat of a dub for them.
Yeah. Griffin, Dad?
Yeah, no. I definitely think this is one of the more even trades on the list that we've had so far, and maybe even throughout the list. But yeah, like I think both teams got exactly what they wanted out of this. The Lakers, they got their championship, and the Pelicans, they got their restart, and now they're in prime position to, probably make a trade or a strike to get into championship contention.
Which it didn't take them that long after this trade, to be honest.
Oh yeah,
a couple
no,
years.
totally. Like this was a complete like retool, not even like a rebuild, like a retool. They got exactly what they wanted out of this. The Lakers, they'll probably end up looking at the losers out of this trade just because of Anthony Davis's health. He was probably a top 5 player up until when they won their championship, and just injuries have derailed that team. So it's unfortunate to see for them, but yeah, I agreed with both your guys' points about how this trade went down.
Yeah. So moving on, Paul George to the Clippers. That second domino for Sam Presti that offseason. You got to give a little credit to the Clippers here. I think if you don't have Kawhi going there, I think you could honestly argue it's like a D trade because of what's happened from it. But I gave it a C only because they were able to get Kawhi. But the matter of fact is the Clippers haven't done anything with this. And looking at it now, OKC got the better player in this deal. I think we can say now that Shea is probably either on par or better than Paul George at this point in their careers. And I know, Carson, I know you were a huge fan of this guy. I know Griffin and I talked about it when the draft was going on this summer. They able to get Jalen Williams from this pick for the pick selections. And he looks like a guy, I know Bill Simmons talks about it a lot. Like, he thinks this guy's got true all-star potential.
He's a problem. He's going to
be a problem. He might be like a Paul George, like, light for them. And I think even like a Paul George light, even if he's like Mikal Bridges, like, but a little bit worse on the defensive end, like, that's a home run for me. So, you want to start it off, Carson?
Yeah, I'd love to. I think the max that this trade can go up to for the Clippers is a B, and only if they win a championship. Really, at this point, the only way to like even salvage this trade somewhat is if they get a chip, and that's a massive if. I mean, there's like 8 different teams in the West right now that you could lay out a path for them to win the title, and I could see it. The West is just, it's that close, it's that deep. There's so much variance. And that's really it for them. That's really it for the Clippers. And you mentioned it, yeah, ended up getting them Kawhi. But, there's a very high likely possibility. It's like, what would that even really, was it even worth it? Was that all, because if they're not going to win, that was the whole point, to win championships. And it doesn't really look like they are. And then you look at the haul, I mean, we'll get to SGA in a sec. I mean, Trey Mann, really like Trey Mann. He seems like he's going to be like, Jordan Clarkson, one of those like heat check guys. He can get buckets fast. We talked about Jalen Williams. I mean, Jalen Williams was giving the Lakers problems on LeBron's record-breaking night. I mean, he was everywhere. He was doing everything. He was getting buckets, playing really good defense. And then you still have 4 more picks. Yeah, 4 more picks to go left. And on top of that, SGA, who, better than PG right now. And how many years is he younger than him? Like 7 years, 8 years younger, or whatever. This might go down as one of. I mean, we'll see. I feel like the cherry on top would be Oklahoma City like getting a championship with Shea or whatever. But like this will go down as like one of the greatest trades ever. Like this could maybe not like a Dallas Cowboys level because they went on like a dynasty run, but this is might be one of the best NBA trades ever in terms of like what OKC got for this. And who knows, maybe one of the 2024 2026 first round picks could turn into like a top 10 guy or whatever. Like it could turn into like somebody serious. You never know, because nowadays like it doesn't really matter where somebody goes. It's just if you get lucky and actually get the guy. So
yeah, Griffin. I mean, I know Carson hit on a lot of points. Is there anything?
Yeah, I mean, like I think you like being way too generous with the grade for the Clippers. Like this is a potentially all-time disastrous trade just because of the assets that they gave up. Like today, I don't think you would see this. Like you definitely wouldn't see this trade now. But like giving up the Clippers at the time, their best young player who looked promising in that first playoff run that the Clippers had in that first year that he had there, like you could see he had significant talent. And plus giving up 6 first round picks is insane to me. And they haven't won and done anything in LA. And they're not the Lakers. They don't have the name brand recognition in LA to bring in free agents while, they have zero draft capital, right? Like they're kind of screwed if they don't win a championship. And just like this is looking like one of the biggest fleeces in NBA history just because of the assets that OKC got back, right? Like Shea is like a potential MVP candidate, right? Like Trey Mann, a dog, Jalen Williams, Liam and I, we were on this during the draft. This dude he's a stud, right? Like, and they have 4 more picks to go in this trade. That's insane to me. It's just, yeah, it's almost like unthinkable, like how bad the Clippers are probably going to be in a position if they don't win a championship off of this.
Yeah, this is one of the biggest like dominoes. Like it's gonna go like if you do like a 30 for 30 on Sam Presti and like how he's rebuilt this team, like this is gonna be like the longest segment of that documentary. It's talking about like how they were able to flip 2 guys that were aging stars to be able to get these. Like how on par is this with the Jaylen Brown Jason Tatum trade?
It might be up there because, like,
if Jalen Williams becomes even an all-star and they hit on a lot of more bench pieces, they already got Trey Mann. Like,
yeah,
Shea may never reach the Tatum top.
I think I'd still take the Celtics one right now just because, what the Nets got back did absolutely nothing. Like KG, Paul Pierce, the Nets didn't do anything. And at least the Clippers, like it's not like they've really done anything either, but
they were like a playoff team.
Exactly. Like I think we can all agree, like if Kawhi doesn't go down, like I think the Clippers, I personally probably would have picked them to beat the Suns the year that you guys went. I feel like, because the Clippers did give you guys a good fight without Kawhi, and I feel like throwing Kawhi in there, then it's like it's a 50-50, and who knows, they could end up beating the Suns, could end up beating the Bucks, a lot of what ifs there, but they got a little unlucky with that. But I feel like they still done a little bit more than that Nets team did, and like Tatum and Brown, I mean that's a decade of championship contention right there, and they could be the same for who knows, they could be the same for OKC, but still a little too early to tell. But I like it though. It could really pan out that same way.
Yeah, and I think another trade that might as well be on that level, James Harden leaving Houston, demanding a trade. I was listening to Bill Simmons talk about this other day, how Kevin Durant and James Harden, put Joseph Tsai, their owner, in a FaceTime. Like, get me this guy. Go get me Harden. And they go out there. Brooklyn gave up a haul in, like, hindsight. Like, let's go over this. Brooklyn, they're going to receive James Harden. Houston is going to get Rodion Kurix, which is like, he was like some European forward. I don't know if he plays at all. I think he might have gone back overseas. Dante Exum. So the players don't matter for Houston there. They get Brooklyn's 2022 first, which has turned out to be Tari Eason, a guy who looks like he could be a very good defensive wing. They have their 2024 and their 2026 first round picks, all of those unprotected. Then they had the right to swap with Brooklyn in 21, 23, 25, and 27, which who knows how they could be in these next couple of years with the way that Brooklyn's roster is constructed. And then they also got Milwaukee's 2022 first, which they ended up trading back to Milwaukee, which became Marjon Beauchamp. But the Nets also traded Karis LeVert, who now ended on Cleveland. So basically, Indiana got a first-round pick and some seconds from it, and Cleveland received Jared Allen and Taurean Prince. And Jared Allen, he's still there with the Cleveland. He's one of the cornerstones of this team going forward. Let's just break this down. Like, it's been a disaster because you can't give the Nets even like a little bit of improvement because the fact is they traded Harden and they significantly regressed by getting a broken player in Ben Simmons, which I feel like we're talking about Ben Simmons when it comes to NBA on this channel, but it is what it is.
Yeah, totally. Like Brooklyn, like to me in hindsight, they definitely get an F. Like you sell the farm for a player who immediately, like he only played 80 games for your franchise. He wanted out, like after seeing what seems to be a lot of dysfunction in Brooklyn. He very clearly didn't want to be there, after a couple months, and wanted to dip. And this team didn't get a championship. Like a lot of talks were happening when Kyrie and Katie got traded, like talking about the what if of this team. And it was really like when that Harden trade happened, it's like, oh my God, this is almost like a guaranteed championship team. And for them to just fall so flatly on their face is just unbelievable to me. Houston, what a haul. Like, they did, it's not to me on the level of the OKC trade that we just talked about, just because they don't get that young star player that they could have built around. And they definitely need some piece that they need to build around in Houston because they have like no leadership there. But they get so many picks. They have let me count: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 picks. 8, which they get, the Marjon Beauchamp as well. Like they have so many assets going forward. They're set up to have a pretty bright future. It's ridiculous to me that this is definitely going to be a learning lesson. There is no way, players are going to be able to talk ownership into making trades like this anymore because of the disaster that happened in Brooklyn. It's definitely going to be a learning lesson for a lot of teams around the NBA.
Yeah. And then Carson, do you care to talk about this? I mean, I know you're a huge Jared Allen fan in this Cleveland. Let's talk about that for a second. Like the huge.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to bring up.
They picked DeAndre Jordan over him, which is
crazy.
Disastrous.
They actually survived because Nick Claxton has now become good, but still, that was a bad choice to make.
I mean, they doubled down, because they're like, okay, we're bringing in Harden, and DeAndre Jordan is one of their boys, so they brought him in to appease them. Yeah, what a disaster that was. What did Cleveland even give up to get Allen? I'm trying to
It wasn't a lot.
They might have threw in Exum in the trade in that Milwaukee first. I'm thinking, but
I feel like they just gave him up.
It might have been.
It really wasn't for anything.
No, I think you're right. I think it was Exum and maybe one of these picks in there.
Seconds that went to the Pacers, something like that. It wasn't much at all. They did not throw in anything valuable.
Yeah, the fact that Cleveland just jumped off the top rope and came in and got Jared Allen for basically nothing, and now he, like you said, Liam, is a cornerstone of, I think, a team that we all agree will be in championship contention for the next 5 seasons. The way they set themselves up with Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, Allen. I mean, just that, those 4 right there, it's just so crazy. I really, really value Allen. I feel like he's the best version of a modern center that doesn't shoot, right? He's not a stretch big, but without the shooting, he's the best possible version of everything else that the center's supposed to do. So yeah, that's crazy that somehow as of right now, Cleveland ended up winning this trade, because with Houston, they have the draft capital. They don't have any young guy to point to. So we'll just have to wait and see, one of these picks could turn up into, a bunch of role guys or whatever, or hopefully, for Houston's sake, one of them ends up turning into a real guy. But just insane, and just really the fact that Brooklyn just such a massive L. And now, one, Brooklyn's in the dumps, and two, like Houston, like even more hype because all of a sudden, Brooklyn is washed. I mean, there might not even be that. I mean, there may be like a play-in team because they have a decent role guys, but you're looking at the future of Brooklyn and like, man, these picks are just looking better and better and better for us if we're Houston. So those are the two defining things for me. It's just like the draft capital, and then Cleveland coming out of nowhere to just help, solidify their championship bubble for the next 5 years, getting Jared Allen, who's only like 24 years old. It's crazy.
Yeah. And they also got Karis LeVert eventually from this, which is even crazier because he's been a solid guy for them too.
I don't like him. He's not their long-term fit at the 3, but I like him for them, coming off the bench.
And we don't get into that trade yet because I didn't think it was big enough to talk about because I think this next one's crazier. But like that Donovan Mitchell trade has been a home run, I think, for both sides. I mean, both got all-star starters in this year's game. I mean, Lauri Markkanen is just – we'll talk on that real quickly. Lauri Markkanen's been fantastic for them this year. And we thought – I know we didn't upload it because of everything that happened, but like we had a podcast, I think – was it us three or was it Jose Griffin?
For Lauri Markkanen?
No, the NBA preview pod we did that we didn't upload.
Yeah, I think it was me.
No, was Jose Carson? Were you with us on that?
I don't remember.
But no, we talked about that. We talked about that trade, and we were like these guys like Sexton and Markkanen are definitely going to be deadline guys, and like they've been fantastic for them, and like they're going to finish at the bottom of the standings. But like, I mean, not the bottom, they'll probably be like the 11th seed or something. But
surprised the guys didn't make more moves, to be honest.
Yeah, but
I thought they were just going to sell the farm, but.
Yeah, like they got rid of Conley, which I mean I think they needed to do, and they got Westbrook, and they got that pick, which we'll get into in a second, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty valuable.
The illustrious pick, which I think if you know about the NBA, you know what pick we're talking about. So which we need to get into now. I think this has been the worst trade I have ever witnessed. I think it's going to go down worse than the Nets, getting fleeced. And trading all of their assets for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. This is the Rudy Gobert trade. I mean, this is a guy who has been receiving criticism before he was traded, for being a guy that was just aged out of the NBA, like his type of game. I mean, we saw him get exposed in the playoffs, the way the Clippers were able to, play 5 out and, have guys like Terrence Mann, be in the corner and try and have Gobert guard him. And you go out there and you give a king's ransom for someone that is just like the metrics lie on this guy. Like people say like numbers like don't lie. Like the numbers lie when it comes to Gobert, in my opinion. And this is not, 2010 or like the 2000s. This Timberwolves team would be great if it was then because you'd have like your young wing and Edwards and you'd have 2 dominant bigs, but that's not how it works.
And Rudy wouldn't be getting exposed on the perimeter and pick and roll.
Yeah. So let's just dive into the trade real quick. So Rudy Gobert goes to Minnesota in exchange for Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Jared Vanderbilt, Leonardo Boloroma. I don't think he's on their team anymore. The rights to Walker Kessler, the Timberwolves unprotected 23 first-rounder, the 25, the 27th, their 2019 first-round pick, top 5 protected, and the right to swap with Minnesota in 26. An absolute haul because this is only one swap. Everything else is a pick that they have on top of their own. And they didn't get a young guy back that was, like what Shea was when he was traded or, so on and so forth. Like you want that young guy. They always say in those trades, like, oh, the Nets are looking for a young star in draft capital, like a veteran starter, They just got some veteran guys. But Jared Vanderbilt was flipped, as we just mentioned, for the illustrious 2027 first-round pick. So, Carson, I mean, I talked to Griffin about this earlier. I just want to hear your thoughts. Like, I think this is a straight F for Minnesota. They're going to live to regret this trade. And their GM should be fired at this point, from what I believe. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean the funniest part about all this is that A-Rod, now he's in the front office, and this is like one of his first big moves. Now that he's in, and it's just a complete disaster. I mean the fact that Minnesota gave up an Anthony Davis level, trade haul and trade package, because this is the type of move that it's like you make this kind of move thinking that it's gonna put you in championship contention with all the assets you give up, but the irony is that they're not. And honestly, they're not really that close. I mean, the Timberwolves are, to me, middle of the pack. And, I mean, they played much better since Towns has been out. I think, that's very telling. It's like, hey, Timberwolves, like, maybe try and move this guy because, just you guys are better without him. But the fact that they threw all this in for Gobert to not even be all that great, to be, middle of the pack in the West, it's just crazy. And, it's one thing if you do this and Anthony Edwards is 27, 28 years old, the version of him that we all think he can be. But he's still like 21, 22, and he still has so much more room to grow. And he's just not ready yet to, who knows? Maybe that would flip it on, in the playoffs or something. Who knows? But I think we all agree he's just not ready to be that guy on a championship team yet. And really just a disaster considering like everybody knew this like wasn't gonna work. Like everybody knew Gobert was fraudulent and Minnesota still did it anyways. And I think that Minnesota will keep, they will Minnesota. I feel like that's just been their MO for so long. They're just one of those NBA franchises that continues to make dumb moves like this.
Yeah.
And just the fact that Utah got the Lakers pick, that's the crown jewel.
Yeah, and trading D'Angelo Russell on top of those two other guys, and he's a negative asset at this point, the way people view him. But Griffin, before I hand it off to you, I imagine like Utah is like what the Vikings like front office looked like when like Jalen Reagor got selected by the Eagles, and they're all like laughing, like you let us get this guy, like they're like you really are giving us this much for Gobert, like thank you. Like I feel like they wouldn't even be able to get him off their hands. Like I can't imagine what other teams were offering, And this wasn't, if anything, this wasn't the team that he should have gone to. I think he should have gone to Charlotte. I think that would have been the best fit for him. But again, it's all business. But Griffin, I know we talked about this, just a buffoonery trade.
Craziest, like the Timberwolves front office needs to be drug tested. Like it's actually insane how bad it is. Like Rudy Gobert, every competent NBA team knows how to beat a Rudy Gobert led defense in the playoffs. Like, you just have to spread them out and then it's so like the rule book is out on Rudy Gobert, and just to throw the Jazz turning that into 7 first-round picks is insane to me. Like what an insane fleece. It's really unbelievable how bad, and we were talking about this like new owner syndrome, but like Rudy Gobert is the guy that you go for. Like the Suns gave up less for Kevin Durant. It's actually unbelievable. It's unbelievable how bad. Like they should clear out the front office. Like you guys cannot run an NBA organization ever. Like you have probably ruined your future. Like how are you gonna like get assets to like get guys around Anthony Edwards now that you have like such low draft capital? Like it's so confusing.
And they ruined the trade market. I mean, trade is
they
the reason that
inflated the trade market. Yeah,
that's the reason OG's going. He was going for like 3 first-round picks. Or exactly. Crazy, like.
Yeah, I was gonna get into that real quick, and then like first of all, like when you're trying to like build a better like brand and business, like the Timberwolves were probably trying to do, like you don't go out and get a guy like Gobert. You waste all your assets on. Like that's not going to bring more fans to the arena and make you more money. Is a business aspect. But Griffin, what I was going to ask you, how much of an effect do you think this had on what Kevin Durant have ended up going for?
I think in the summer it definitely inflated the market because like Kevin Durant was the only team, sources are saying now that he wanted to go to was the Suns, and it seems like the market was inflated because of that. Other teams kind of came in trying to offer, something similar to what ended up happening, being the trade that ended up happening. And I think the Nets said no. And I think the Nets rightfully wanted to get more out of him because they saw what Rudy fucking Gobert got from him, right? Like it's crazy, and like I mean, I would definitely try to get more if I'm seeing Rudy Gobert get that. Like, give me 6 first round picks and like a star. Like it's ridiculous. Like, and it definitely inflated the market because Katie didn't get moved in the offseason.
Yeah, like, do you think it could have been like Aiton instead of Cam Johnson in that deal? Like, if it went down in the
Yeah, no, that was my fear. It was going to be Mikal, Aiton, and like the 4 first round picks plus 3 swaps. It was only 1 swap. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, so let's hop into it. I mean,
Yeah.
the biggest trade that has maybe happened in terms of a player ever. You know,
hmm
Michael Jordan hasn't been traded. LeBron hasn't been traded. Kobe hasn't been traded. You know, sure, like, I'm not going to date all the way back to, like, Kareem, but, like, it's a level of one of the top 10
Yes.
great players of all time being traded. And,
Well, Shaq was traded.
yeah, Shaq. But, like, this guy, he's one of the top 3 best scorers to ever play the game. Like, sure, like, LeBron's number 1 all time, but, like, pure scoring, like, everyone's going to take Durant 10 times out of 10. But, like, he didn't even go for as much in the calendar year, in the a whole year span that other trades went for. So, just for the trade, you know, Phoenix receives Kevin Durant in a reunion with T.J. Warren. Brooklyn receives Mikal
Welcome
Bridges,
home.
Cam Johnson, Juan Pablo Valle. I don't even know if you knew who that was, Griffin. But
Did you mean Jay Crowder? I was confused.
oh, that's his name?
No, I don't know who that is. I think that's a fake person.
It said it on there. I was like, who the heck is that?
No. Jay Crowder's. He's going to what? Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
The bigger trade was that, but I'm just narrowing it down. And then a 2023 first from Phoenix, a 2025, a 2027, the swap in 28, a second from Milwaukee in 28, a 2019 first from Phoenix, and a 2029 first from Phoenix, and a 29 second round from Milwaukee. Griffin, I mean, we just got to pass the ball to you. You take it away. Like, I want to know both, like,
Yes, sir.
both ways of this trade because I have a lot of opinions as well, and I imagine Carson does too.
it's so crazy that something this good could happen to an organization that has been let down so bad due to Robert Sarver. He was so cheap. This trade would not have been done if Matt Ishbia hadn't bought the team. Robert Sarver would not be able to go in the luxury tax because he is a cheap fuck. And like, it's just unbelievable the offensive capabilities that this offense now has. CP3, he's gonna not have to handle the ball as much as he has been, which will take the load off of him in the playoffs, which will hopefully get him to CP1 ring. Devin Booker and Kevin Durant at 2 insane mid-range level scoring threats, like probably the best we've ever seen in the league as a duo from the mid-range. This is going to open up Ayton in the paint. Like they're going to have to double KD or double Booker. Ayton's going to be free in the post to feast, and he has been feasting recently. It's just upsetting that we had to give up the twins. I love Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson so much. They did so much for the culture in Phoenix, in the Valley. Like it's really sad to see. Mikal Bridges, he was taking a leap offensively this year when Chris Paul and Devin Booker were out. He was able to handle the ball more, facilitate, even drive a little, pull up from mid. Like he's starting to develop that into his game. And I told Liam this over the phone a couple of weeks ago that I think he's probably a possible all-star next year just because of the developmental leaps that he's been taking. Cam Johnson, what an incredible 3-and-D player. And I think this is a genuine, pretty good haul for Brooklyn, but it's confusing when you look at what they got for Kyrie and asking what happened there because it seemed like they could have gotten more for Kyrie in terms of a rebuilding package if they wanted to blow it up with Kevin Durant. So overall, I'm just so ecstatic that the Suns are in this position where they are able to compete for a championship again because, like I said earlier in the podcast, I thought it was wraps. I wanted us to blow it up. But now it's just like Aiton's playing the best ball he's ever played. Devin Booker's just coming back from injury. Chris Paul has been playing a lot better. He just had 15 and 19 last night. Like he's still a Hall of Fame level point guard, and you're adding Kevin Durant to that. Also, welcome back, Tony Buckets. We're happy to have you. But yeah, it's so exciting. I can't believe it. I'll throw it to you guys.
Yeah, Carson.
Well, before I give like some quick thoughts, I just want to ask Griffin, like, what's the discourse amongst Suns fans when it comes to Matt Ishbia? Like, is he like the second coming of Jesus
Yes.
now? I mean, like,
Yes.
what, like, how is like everyone must be just like so ecstatic that you go from Robert fucking Sarver to this young, upstart, tons of energy owner that like seems to like. I mean, he literally played college hoop. I mean, well, didn't really play that much, but like
Yeah.
played for like what's the discourse on that? How are you guys feeling? about it?
Robert Sarver was a bottom 5 owner in like probably any league, and he was so cheap. He sold our G League team because he didn't want to pay. Like we don't have a G League team now because of Robert Sarver. Matt Ishbia already said he's going to bring that back. He's going deep into the luxury tax. Robert Sarver only went, I believe it was 16 million into the luxury tax in his whole like tenure with the Suns, and now Matt Ishbia is already 45 in. Like he is about it. Like it's just so good to have like competent owners. Like to watch a team have a competent owner who had none like for so
That's
long.
awesome,
It just
man.
feels so
That's
good.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Joe Lacob does for us. Shout out the
Yeah,
man.
I was just gonna say because we've been blessed with that. Like it's nice having an owner. Like these guys have so much money. Like the least they
Yeah.
can do is pour some.
Yeah, no,
into
it's like
having a good
why
team.
would you own a team if you're not gonna like put
Yeah.
all in? Like it made no sense to me, and I'm just happy Matt
Yeah.
Ishbia's there.
And especially with
That's
a guy
awesome.
like Lacob, like we know he's making his huge ROI. Like I don't care how much money he pays in luxury tax, like to own the Golden State Warriors, which shout out, they've passed the Knicks on Forbes by like a mile now. Like he's making his ROI. But Carson,
Yeah.
falls in your court.
Yeah, I want to get Brooklyn out of the way. I mean, they got everything that you could have wanted. If you're trading a guy like Kevin Durant, I feel like the trade haul was great. I mean, what is it, 6, 7 picks? Just crazy. And they also have a young guy that they can point to. That's been like a theme of this episode. Like, if you do or don't get like the young guy also in the trade that's like ready to go now and someone you can kind of build around, I think Mikal Bridges fits that bill. At worst, he's, a borderline all-star, really great 3-and-D guy, like at worst. And he's still so young. He still has, a lot of stuff that he can add to his game. And then Cam Johnson's also too. So great for Brooklyn to get, that kind of package back, especially considering, all the BS that happened, in the KD, Kyrie, I guess Harden era too. So good for Brooklyn getting a good trade haul. And then for Phoenix, yeah, I mean, this could really be something special. And we're blessed as NBA fans that we got, a massive trade. I feel like this is like the kind of trade that we yearn for every trade deadline, and we actually got it at, Liam, for you it was probably like 1 a.m. For me, I was about to go to bed. It was like 10:30 at night.
When I wake up, I get like I have 50 text messages on my phone. Like I don't ever have that, and it's just like people are like, what the hell? Like Kevin Durant. Like, Griffin just sends me these fucking text messages. I'm like, what's going on? And I'm like,
No, I was freaking out on my couch. I'm like half asleep. I'm like, about to go to bed. I'm like, whoa, like holy shit. And yeah, I mean, Griffin, you talked about the offense. I mean, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. I mean, that has to be the best duo in the league now, right? I mean, Brown and Tatum, I'd still probably give it to them, but I mean, this has to be right there, right? I mean,
Mhm.
top 2, top 3. I can't wait to see them fully healthy. I'm super, super excited. Hopefully Durant can get back soon. Just Durant and Booker, just, the two of them. I know Durant's been a big fan of Booker's, since he got into the league. I think the real question mark and the thing that's going to unlock this team and decide if they win a championship or not, obviously health. But 2 is Ayton. I mean, Ayton's been playing really well. He's the wild card. It's like, can he, step up and, really just do what he did in the finals run? Because I thought, obviously, Giannis, showed him who's boss. It's fucking Giannis. Can't really do much about that. But I thought he was fantastic leading up until the finals. And if he can find that again through all the looks that he's going to get from Booker, Durant, and CP3, that and health, this is a championship team, and you guys are right there now. Feel pretty bad for the Nuggets because it seemed like this was going to be the Nuggets year, and all of a sudden it's like now they got to deal with KD and the Suns in the Valley. And I'm very, very excited to see this team and the offensive potential.
Yeah, for your Ayton point, sorry, Lamb.
No, go ahead.
Ayton's been playing like that the past 10 games. It seems like
he's
his mentality's changed. And I've said that every playoffs. Ayton has always been the key. Like, it sucks in that finals run. Like, we didn't really have a backup center. It was only Ayton. But now I think like it's only gonna. I think this is only gonna help him because the attention's gonna be shifted to the possible 3 Hall of Fame players that you already have on the roster, and now Ayton's just going to be left alone in the paint to feast. I think this is going to do nothing but good things for Ayton's career.
And also, you guys are going to be the number one destination to get whatever top buyout guy there is. I mean, I feel like we, the media, and just fans, we kind of hype up the buyout guys a little too much because it's kind of rare to actually get someone that really does a lot for you. But there's going to be at least 1 or 2 decent guys out there that are going to get, because I'm not really sure, I'm not really liking your guys' depth too much. But when you have a foursome like that, at some point it doesn't really matter what you have behind that. I mean, as long as they're confident.
And also the bench is going to shrink in the playoffs anyways, so the best guys will rise to the top. And also, Josh Okogie, he's been playing really good recently. I think he's going to be our 5th starter, good 3-and-D. He's developed his three-point shot so much since he's been in Minnesota. He's shooting 45% from 3 right now. I think he'll be our 5th starter. TJ Warren's just a bucket off the bench. We just got Darius Baisley. I think he's going to be a great 3-and-D guy as well. I think it'll be okay. I think our bench is going to be maybe a little underrated even.
Yeah, I think a great guy for you guys to try and go out and get would be Pat Bev, just to have that veteran guy off the bench.
Yeah.
You hate to play against him. You love to have him on your team.
Just Chris Paul and him might actually fight each other every game off the bench. Yeah. They just have so much beef. I don't know if they can overcome it.
Shout out that podcast, though. I love that Pat Bev pod.
It's pretty good.
Every clip I see on YouTube Shorts or whatever is always good.
No, yeah, those guys are good. So let's dive into. I mean, we just touched on Durant. Let's dive into the other trades from this deadline. We'll kind of just go through and the ones that I saw first. So Eric Gordon returning back to the Clippers. Kind of funny. We just kind of talked about that earlier in this episode. The Clippers receiving Eric Gordon, 3 seconds, and the Rockets get John Wall. They get Danny Green, who's already out in Cleveland, and a protected pick swap. And the Grizzlies get Luke Kennard, a really interesting piece in this. Funny, John Wall, he's going to get released and, be a buyout candidate. But it's so funny because he was talking smack on those boys the other day. He's like, we were starting a dude named Justin Patton. And, now he's back on that roster, but there's no way he steps foot in that facility. But, Carson, I mean, let's talk about this Luke Kennard factor because I know you're a big Grizzlies guy. What do you think he does for that team? Because there's no problem with having more wings on that roster.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a nice pickup for them. And I think, the Grizzlies and the Pelicans were the 2 teams that I really wanted them to make moves because I'm very high on their potential. And it was definitely disappointed because they really didn't do much at all. Whereas I feel like almost every other team in the West did something to improve. Obviously the Suns, massively improved. But I feel like for the most part, all of the other contemporaries in the West did something. And the Grizzlies, Pelicans didn't do too much. I like Kennard on this team, as shooting. As for the Clippers, I feel like the Clippers definitely got better because they basically turned Kennard and John Wall into Gordon, Bones Highland, and they got Plumlee too. So I definitely think that the Clippers are better. So I'm interested to see that. But and also I do like Danny Green going to Cleveland too. Put another adult in the room. He's solid. Yeah, a lot of coming homes. A lot of coming home for random players. So yeah, I like what the Clippers did.
And 3 guys in that trade came back to where they were at a previous stop in their destination. 2 guys where they started their careers. Another guy just going back to where he was. We need to dive into this one. This is a huge one that we had. Wiseman finally ends his saga in Golden State. You know, we pulled the plug on the project. You know, the former number 2 overall pick. Going to go down as one of the biggest what ifs. What if they took LaMelo Ball? What if they took goddamn near anyone in that draft besides Wiseman? He's going to Detroit, another reclamation project for them. Their second number 2 overall pick that they've traded for in the last year, I believe. And we get Gary Payton III after some complications. You know, he's going to be back probably around playoff time, you know, if we continue to get up in those rankings, you know, with Steph's injury. The Hawks get a finesse in Sadiq Bey out of this. And the Blazers get Fortnite suit Kevin Knox in some future second round.
Fortnite suit.
Let's just dive into this Wiseman thing. I think we could have a whole damn episode on this. But, like, what are your thoughts, like, the whole saga and everything like that?
It really is a shame because I was really, really excited when we got Wiseman because I feel like that's been, like, the one kind of player that, you know, we as Warriors fans, we've always wanted and missed is just like a super athletic, you know, rim running big because, you know, I love Looney. You know, he's an Iron Man. He gets a ton of rebounds, even though I have no idea how he does it because he can't jump over a piece of paper. I really like the thought of him as, you know, complete opposite, a change of pace from Looney. With that being said, we needed him to be, you know, what I think we still well, let's just get this out of the way. I feel like we both agree that Wiseman will end up being a good player. We don't think that he's going to be a bust. It was just the wrong fit. You know, we needed someone that could play right away, and he's just, you know, it's going to take him a few years, and hopefully, you know, he ends up being a good lob threat and a good, you know, teammate with Cade. I wish him the best. And it's just a shame that he couldn't be ready to go right away. We couldn't get him as what his potential could be. With that being said, you know, getting GP2 back is huge. You know, bringing back a little bit of that, you know, that magic from last year. He's a great locker room guy for us. Really, really sucked when he left. Just feels a little counterintuitive that we basically had to give up Wiseman to just get him back. But, I mean, that's just how the money worked. I really wanted Sadiq Bey, though. I really wanted Sadiq Bey on the Warriors. I'm going to be honest. I really wanted him. He had that game winner on us a couple months ago. I really wanted him. I'll take GP2. For sure. But we were texting about it. Like when we saw that Sadiq Bey might be coming, we were excited because I feel like we're definitely in the Sadiq Bey camp. We're definitely on, you know, the warmer side of liking his game. I think he's really solid. He's young too.
He dropped 50 last year. I mean, like, this is a guy, like, the Pistons told him to stop playing as much basketball in training as he was because he was locked in like that. And, like, I hate to sound cliche, but, like, that's that dog mentality you want in a player, you know? And, like, when you sent those rumors out, I know we were in that group chat. Like, no way. Like, there's no way he ends up with
that would have been awesome.
I mean, Gary Payton, like, you love to see him come back. I think we were all devastated when he left this offseason. You know, get your bag, man. Like, get your money up. But he gets to get his money up now back on our team, which I love to see. And with the Wiseman thing, what were your expectations when he was drafted? Because I truly thought that he could be like it's like key of a piece is like prime DeAndre Jordan kind of was, but like almost with a jump shot, like when he was on the Clippers. Like that's how sky high expectations I had. Like, what were you thinking?
Yeah, same. I thought he was someone that, you know, at worst he's catching lobs, he's protecting the rim. And, you know, you saw it from his high school tapes, a little bit in college, like definitely had there's a lot of untapped like guard skills, you know, had nice touch around the rim, had that, you know, the jumper is solid, you know, kind of handle it a little bit. And I think, you know, he just wasn't ready basketball wise. And he just, you know, came into a system that's very, very complicated and it just, you know, was a little much for him. But yeah, I mean, I think DeAndre Jordan, like as a ceiling, as a peak, I think that's a really, really great comp. It's funny that they're both, you know, left-handed too. I really like that. It's just it just sucks that you know, and I think when that gets realized, it's not going to be on our team, but this was a move that we had to make because we just, our window's now, and we really can't, as much as the front office wanted to, we just, couldn't wait around for him. I'm glad we didn't give up Kuminga though, because out of those two guys, much rather have Kuminga.
Yeah,
much rather.
100%. And I'm wondering what's going to go on with Atlanta this offseason because I imagine Bogdanovich is going to have to be on his way out. That Sadiq Bey is supposed to fill that role because I couldn't see them trading DeAndre Hunter. So that's another
I think Hunter's someone that they keep. Yeah, I like Hunter a lot.
Yeah, so we can just kind of go through these next ones pretty quickly. I mean, we touched on it. Suns, they trade Saric in a second for Bazley. I think we both agree, Saric
good upside
off the edge for them and, a good bench piece for Phoenix. And this is a big one, though. The Lakers going out and getting Mo Bamba and a solid 3-and-D wing from the U himself, Devon Reed, in a second. And LA getting Bones Highland out of this deal. I mean, I know you've been a big Bones guy ever since his rookie season. So, what are your thoughts with, the Clippers and the Lakers here?
Yeah, for the Clippers, I really like it because I feel like, Bones is just a younger, cheaper, and honestly better version of Reggie Jackson, who he got dealt too, right? He's gone?
Yeah, he's in Charlotte now.
Whew, tough spot for him. It's like NBA purgatory right now, that in Houston. So I like it for the Clippers a lot. It's just basically, getting a better version of Reggie Jackson, someone that could just come in and drop 20, 30 off the bench. And just, I feel like just didn't really fit, what was going on in Denver, which is tough because it's weird, letting go of a guy like that that's so young and has shown so much promise. But, Denver, I feel like similar to just Wiseman, it's like, obviously Bones has shown more than Wiseman, but just doesn't really fit what the Nuggets are trying to do right now. That being said, with the Nuggets, I mean, well, first of all, the Lakers turning Thomas Bryant into Mo Bamba, that's just 2 steps backwards to me. I don't get that at all. But for the Nuggets, I love it. I mean, I feel like, to me, this was my favorite, on the fringe move because the Nuggets, one weak spot to me was, their backup center. You're not playing DeAndre Jordan in the playoffs. Thomas Bryant.
Yeah.
Hell no. And Thomas Bryant is a great backup center. I think Bryant was one of the best things about the Lakers this year. I think he was really, really solid. I think Lakers fans really liked him, and it's going to be tough to see him go. Just solid, good touch around the rim. He's high activity. And I think he's going to be really, really solid for the Nuggets and was definitely the missing piece, for sure in that rotation.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact was that they weren't able to, retain Bryant on that, mid-level exception again that they brought him in with. So, I think that's what ended up happening. So we'll move on. The Westbrook trade, it comes to an end in LA. I mean, we could dive into this trade forever. But, Westbrook, ends his saga. He heads off to Utah, expected to be a buyout candidate following the All-Star break as he considers his options. The Lakers, they bring back D'Lo. They get Malik Beasley. And Jared Vanderbilt had a hell of a debut against the Warriors the other day. I tuned in that game. He's not a guy that a lot of people know about just because, he's played in a lot of small market areas. But, he's –
though.
They'll know him. They'll know him soon enough. The Timberwolves, they get Conley, Nikhil Walker-Alexander in 3 seconds. And the Jazz get Juan Toscano Anderson, Damian Jones, Westbrook, and that 27 first, which we talked about earlier. Carson, I'm going to start off. Do you think the Lakers, how big are these moves for
them? I honestly, I think it's pretty solid. I mean, I actually considering that they – besides the pick, didn't really give up all that much to get 3 pretty solid rotational guys. I mean, D'Lo is actually having somewhat of a decent season. It's just really if he's your starting point guard, but if he's going to be, if he's the 4th or 5th option or whatever, somewhat solid. Beasley, heat check guy, and to me, Vanderbilt's the best part of this trade. If you're the Lakers, he's someone that could actually contribute, to winning games. Timberwolves, I like Conley. I feel like they're like doubling down on the Gobert trade, just getting someone that can play well with Gobert. And as for the Jazz, I mean, the fact that they just have Westbrook on their team, they're if you keep him, he'll just help you tank. If you let him go, let him go in the buyout market. The fact that they got that Lakers pick is crazy. But I think the big thing is like just what a disaster the Westbrook era on the Lakers was. Just really was a massive, massive disaster. And from
Yeah.
the start, I feel like for the most part, people were really on that.
And he was having a decent season, at least when he was like, off the bench. Like he was the sixth man of the year candidate. And
Yeah.
he'll be good for a team I don't know what team would end up with him, but Griffin, is there any teams that come to mind like that you think Westbrook would?
People have said the Bulls and stuff, but like I don't know, like what does that do for you? There's been some chatter around the Suns, but like KD and Westbrook being reunited, I don't see that being realistic at all. Like so, yeah, I don't know.
I would love
Maybe
it
Miami.
in Miami if like Kyle Lowry was just shut down for the whole year, because I think Gabe Vincent would do well in like a 6 minute a game starter role, and like have Westbrook come in for those other minutes, because they need a little bit of juice on that team. I know they've been on a roll lately, but they still.
Yeah, I'd like to see
I
him in
wouldn't
the
mind
Heat.
that.
Yeah, I think that would be a good fit, but I mean,
Spoelstra would definitely get pretty annoyed with him, consider like his defensive effort and miscues.
exactly. And then Pirtle, he goes back to the Raptors, where he was traded from. Literally earlier in this podcast, we talked about it. Kevin Birch, a solid young center, and then a 24 first, 23 second, and a 25 second. I mean, is there much to say about here? I think we got other trades to talk about.
Well, real quick, I don't know why the Raptors even did this though. Like they kind of zagged, and like we all thought they were just gonna like dump players, but then
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like they think they can maybe contend next year, but like I don't know. It just seems like short-sighted. Like you're not that good where you like I don't think they're a move away. I think they're like a couple moves away, and this does make them better. But I don't know. I don't really understand it.
I don't think like Siakam, like he's clearly their best player. I don't know if he's enough to like lead him like far. Like
No.
Who could they use? Kawhi. That would be one.
Yeah.
Hey, who knows? That team, if they don't do anything, like Kawhi might just say F it.
Well, when they get 5 picks for OG Anunoby, maybe they could flip that for something.
Yeah.
He's the most random dude right now. Like, I thought he was gone. Like, who didn't think he was gone? But Kyrie to the Mavericks. I mean, we've already seen it already. He shined in his home debut against the Clippers. He's looked like he's looking real solid so far on this team. But Kyrie and Markieff Morris to the Mavericks for Spencer Dinwiddie. Dorian Finney-Smith, who I know is a channel favorite, 29 first and 2 future seconds. Griffin, let's start us off. What do you think about this trade?
I mean, I guess I like it. It's going to be interesting to see because this is something I've been curious to see. Luka play with another star and kind of give up some of the control. Can he do that? But like, I feel like I've been a basketball fan and watched a lot of basketball long enough to realize like I've seen this before with Kyrie, like him going to Boston, initially, people being super excited, then eventually the wheels will fall off. In Brooklyn, same story. So I'm kind of just waiting for that to happen. Not that I wouldn't like to see them succeed. Actually, I don't want them to succeed. I'm a Suns fan, but like it's like it could be interesting, like 100%. If these guys buy in 100% and they learn how to play with each other, sure, I can see where they were coming from here, but they definitely got a lot worse defensively with losing Dorian Finney-Smith. And like we kind of mentioned this before, don't love this for the Nets just because this is more of like trying to still contend or trying to be a playoff team. And I feel like you could have gotten more assets from somewhere else, but this is the trade that they made. So you guys have any other thoughts?
Could have been a 3-team though. I think they needed picks instead of Dinwiddie and Finney-Smith.
Yeah, I agree.
Because the Nets are like the greatest assimilation of role players like you've ever seen.
Hmm.
That roster has like a million damn like wing players.
Like the
Yeah.
Nets are just like the
So many
Jazz
switchable
of
wings.
the East.
Like what? So you got Dinwiddie, you got Cam Johnson, you got Mikal Bridges, you got Finney Smith, you got
Cam Thomas.
Cam Thomas, you got Claxton, you got they had some other guys.
Harris, Seth Curry.
Seth Curry.
Yeah.
This is a random group of
Utah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's yeah, shout out Utah. He's been a great shooter.
Oh yeah.
But we'll see how this trade pans out. Like the Mavericks can make another Western Conference final. I think it's a great trade for them. Don't even think it needs to be a home run, but because they didn't give too much up in retrospect. Because
No.
just a first, and
They're just not great defensively now, though. Like
Mhm.
Dorian Finney-Smith was by far their best defender. Like I don't know in a series against the Suns, who's guarding KD? Like who's guarding Booker? Like one of those two. Like
like
Luka's
are
probably.
you putting
Yeah.
like
Yeah, I don't know.
I know.
Like it just definitely makes them worse defensively.
Yeah.
And then the Lakers, I think, might be their best pickup from this deadline has been Ryu Hachimura. Coming in from the Wizards for Kendrick Nunn, shout out Polo G, and additional 28 second and a 29 second. I mean, this is kind of a weird segment to go on, but like Kendrick Nunn was one of the biggest failure projects, like going to the Lakers. Like this guy was great on the Heat. And then he goes over to the Lakers. Like we're like, oh wow, he's gonna be a great like option. Like he's gonna be the starting point guard, and like he's a throw-in in that deal. Like Ryu Hachimura, like you could have done that trade with just 2 seconds. It's probably just the cap space that needed to happen. But I mean, Carson, what do you think of Ryu? Because I think he's looked solid so far.
Yeah, I mean for the Lakers, I really like it because you're getting someone that helps contribute to winning, like a solid role guy for basically giving up nothing. You're basically getting Rui for free. So it's not like Nunn was really doing anything. The picks, they don't matter for the Lakers at all. So yeah, I like it. He's been solid. Solid fringe move by the Lakers. But I feel like with Rui, D'Lo, Beasley, Vanderbilt, I just still don't think I just still don't think they have it. It's really just like unless AD turns into the guy he was like, what was it, like 3 months ago or whatever, where he was on like a bender at the start of the season. I just still don't think it really matters. But for what it was, solid move.
Yeah, and Griffin. I mean, anything to touch on that?
Yeah, I like Rui. Rui's been playing good on the Lakers. I've liked what I've seen so far from him, giving up basically nothing. So yeah, I also don't love the Wizards. Like I don't really understand what they're doing. Like we've said this for
They're
multiple.
so mid.
Like they're just the middest team ever. Like I just don't understand every time we talk about like a trade deadline or the draft. Like I just don't get it. But like I like Rui, so good for the Lakers.
Yeah, I think just like one of the weirdest like teams in the last ever since John Wall left. Like I think ownership is just
They're just in no man's land.
they're scared. Like
Yeah.
who like gets excited? Like yo, let's pull up to the Wizards game. Like I can't imagine anyone in the DMV.
Not a single soul.
Like they probably like as prevalent as basketball is there because like the high school game there is really relevant. Like they probably want to go to high school games more than they want to go watch like Kyle Kuzma drop 30. Like
Mhm.
it's not an interesting team, and like that team needs to get bought out because unfortunately, like Washington sports is a dead zone. Ever since the Nationals won that chip, like they've been downhill. You lose Soto, you lose what was it called? The Commanders have just been mid, and then
Mhm.
Law leaves, and it's been so up and down trying to get players to Washington. You're not going to be a free agency destination, despite being the damn capital of our nation. It's hard to attract talent there, but so be it. I mean, that is what it is. But any other things to mention before we hop off on this, crazy trade podcast?
I don't know. Does this trade change anything for you guys' championship picks?
I think Boston's still my pick, at least to come out of the East, and
Mhm.
I need to see some more. I need to see KD like probably like a 5-game sample size where I can make the true decision. Because I might have the Nuggets, honestly. I think the Nuggets could still pull something out.
Yeah, I think it does.
Ayton can guard Jokic.
He has in the playoffs. Ayton is the Jokic stopper. I'm gonna be honest. Like he's the guy who can guard Jokic. Like in the playoffs when Ayton was good. Like I'm just gonna be the guy to say it.
And
Ayton's
for the
the Jokic
Nuggets,
stopper.
it's like, you only have like Aaron Gordon can only guard one of Booker or Durant. And I mean, yeah, Michael Porter Jr. has the length and the size for Durant, but
You're gonna look at him like food.
He's food. I think the East is still the same for me. It's Milwaukee or Boston still, with the Sixers like kind of being a wild card, but I just don't trust the Embiid, Harden, Doc Rivers pairing. I mean, they've just time and time again proved us wrong. I still Nuggets Suns. I think I feel like every year we get like an ideal like Western Conference Finals matchup, and I feel like that's the one this year. It's like that I really want to see.
That'll be a fun matchup.
I really want to see Nuggets Suns, and it might not even be in the Western Conference Finals, just considering where like the seeding can be all crazy. Well, if it's not going to be the Warriors, of course, I would want to see them in a playoff series.
The Warriors just seem like injuries are just going to keep us away this year, which
it really, I don't know. The mojo's weird on our team, man.
We've seen our success. I think I'm fine with the down year, like.
Yeah. Maybe retool next year. We'll see. I still feel like we got a couple more years in the window.
Oh, no, 100%. But, like, Thompson, who knows with him now, and Poole needs to calm his cockiness down. But that's a whole nother story.
That's a whole nother podcast, bro. Don't get me started on Poole. Oh, my gosh.
All right. Well, we appreciate you guys all for listening. We'll have a little Instagram slides of all, like, these trades, what we're talking about. I'll probably have a little article posted with all of the evaluations I did. So appreciate you guys all for listening. Coast to Coast Podcast. Sign out. Peace.